I love her. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I think I've actually gone live already in the whole kit and caboodle. This is actually, there it is. Yes. So we technically are already live right now.
Very good.
Had some technical issues, so I do apologize. Welcome to the show. Welcome everyone to be on the Hairline. This is my incredible guest, Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. Normally I start with like about a 15-minute chit chat prior to, and with the technical difficulties, I did not get a chance to pre-chat with you. So we're
That's okay.
literally going to be flying off the cuff for you today.
That's all right. I'm ready.
Yay, I'm excited. So you got the little outline, you got everything we're going to chat about.
Yes, I
I
did.
am super pumped. Why don't we just start? I'm going to share a little bit about my story and why I brought you onto the
Mhm.
show. And then maybe we'll share a little bit about your story and why you opened up Saskatoon Pole and Dance.
Absolutely.
So in my world, very similar to like my big fat Greek wedding and how the dad relays everything goes back to the Greek language. As far as I'm concerned, everything goes back to hair loss. Stress causes hair loss, and many things can cause that stress in my world. I've been raped twice, and then I was sexually assaulted when I was a child and molested by a family member again when I was 9. So I have experiences at 5 years old, 9 years old, 18, and 21. This type of an experience locks you straight out of your body. It's really hard to become connected to it again. And so I have a friend who's actually one of Sarah's coaches down at Saskatoon Pole, the beautiful Bridget. And Bridget suggested to me that it's something that I should try because between what she said in this Netflix documentary that I very strongly recommend anybody out there watch, a lot, basically, what is it? What's the ratio? One in two of us is raped by the time we're 20. Like, it's disgusting. It's absolutely horrific. And so I tried pole dancing because in this Netflix special, every single woman that participated in this class had been assaulted. One of the women in the class was actually one of the survivors on the US Olympic team. And that doctor, that nasty doctor that went around assaulting all those women, she is featured in this documentary. And for many of you out there who are maybe like me, who suffer from anxiety, I move at such a rapid pace so that I don't slow down and feel anything. It's very painful when I slow down. And so when I was I took up my very first class. I think Austin was my teacher. He was phenomenal. I have never been surrounded by such incredible people. And look, I'm gonna get all emotional already, but we were all different ranges of sizes. We were different ranges of ethnicities, and we were different, all different humans. And it was the only room that I've ever been able to not worry about what I look like and be, I don't want to say praised, but you look good, girl. Like even though you feel like you're almost having a seizure and I'm not rhythmic, right? I'm an athletic girl. I'm a sports girl. I am not full Grace is not my middle name. And so to be able to slow down and then and I purchased my own private pole so that I could go in my bedroom because I'm a single woman. So I close my doors, kids are shut out, da 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 da. But is the only thing that has been able to slow me down in such an anxious world. So thank you for providing a place for people like me to go. Thank you. So why did you do it?
Um, so many reasons, but so my name is Sarah Longpre. I opened up Saskatoon Pole and Dance Studio. It's coming up on 7 years. We opened up in 2018, and I've been teaching pole for over a decade. So um I grew up at a dance studio, and I found dance when I was 10 years old. I started out in hip hop classes. And so often when I tell people a bit about my dance history, I was a very I don't want to say I was an uncomfortable child, but I was not confident by any means. And so it was something that growing up, my parents kind of put me and dabbled into every sport. I did a lot of arts, and then at a later age, I said, this hip hop class is a ton of fun, and I want to dive into dance classes. And dance became a huge part of my life. I was very lucky to grow up at a dance studio that was, we were recreational. And so dance classes per style, it was like 45 minutes once a week. Um, and when I started to go in and recognize and see that the dance studio that I grew up at was so inclusive and welcoming, and just had a belief that anybody who wanted to dance, anybody who wanted to go on a stage belonged there. And so that was where a lot of what I took into the studio, that's where a lot of that inclusive and welcoming and really celebrating people who just love movement grew. I was very lucky to get to start that at an early age, because there's so many people who go through dance classes that don't have that story, that they believe. And that's where it's really hard being an adult dance facility now, where there are a lot of concerns for people who think, that they're worried about coming into a space because they're concerned that whether it is age, body shape, there's so many different things that slow people down from coming to a class. So I'm trying to break that with Saskatoon Pole and Dance Studio first and foremost.
I think
But
you've done a phenomenal job. I'm
oh,
almost
thank
50.
you.
I'll be 50 this year. So you definitely don't need to be young and spry. So we'll just throw that on all us menopause girls. This is where you need to be.
That's right. So it's really incredible that I think at the studio we have all 18 and up classes, but I've had participants all the way through 70.
That's
And
amazing.
so it's really, really cool to see. But pole was something that, again, didn't come naturally to me. I was teaching dance I was 19, and one of my participants said, I'm going to take this pole class, and introduced me to a beginner pole class, but asked me for, I think it was 6 months of her going, you should come and sign up for this. That I kept saying, like, I don't think I could do it. Like, I'm
Why
not
did you
strong
say
enough.
no? Like, so for me, I always sort of for me, I'm old, so I always associated it with, well, that's just what strippers do.
Mm-hmm.
I had
So
not dabbled in the athleticism that is actually truly involved in pole.
right. Yeah. So when I was 19 and teaching dance, my world was really, I was in hair school. And so I was a hairstylist when I was younger. And then I was teaching kids dance throughout the evening. So day by day, hairstylist, by evening at the studio. And so when my friend was asking me to take classes, first off, like, I feel like I was still a kid. I was living at home. So I'm like, I'm with my parents. I'm so busy that I've got all this going on. I knew that I was a leader to a large studio. My cat is trying to come and say hello.
We love kitties. We love kitties. It's all good.
So when I was teaching kids, there was a large part that I said, like, I'm a leader at this other place. I don't know how I would feel about getting involved in pole dancing, because again, there's this huge stigma to it in Saskatchewan, especially. And so I was nervous, and lastly, I was like, I'm not strong enough.
Hmm.
So after a few months of her saying, like, you're gonna have so much fun, just come and try it, I signed up. And I remember showing up to my first class, and yeah, the instructor saying, like, we're going to warm up, we stretch, and we're going to do 5 push-ups. And I couldn't do those 5 push-ups. And that to me was the first time that I was like, okay, here comes the discouragement. Like, I was like, I can't do this. And then when I realized that I can move around the pole, I can incorporate a lot of the dance side of it that I love, and then learn this new skill, it did not take me long to fall in love with it. And so,
Amazing.
yeah, classes started to, I had to repeat a lot. I was in the pole studio and I was taking as much as I can. And I really enjoyed it. It was just this additional benefit, but I did hide it from most people in my life, outside of, my small group of like pole friends and people that I met there, and a few dancers. And I didn't want anybody to know.
Right? Because you feel almost like a shame thing, right? It's almost like, oh, is she going to think I'm dirty or they're going to think I'm dirty?
So yeah, and there's a lot that I can talk about for so long too, because even going into this studio where it was, pole was very fitness based, I want to say, for
Awesome.
kind of getting introduced. Of course, like, you go in and you get to like learn a body wave, and so you're getting introduced to all of this body awareness, which was really cool for me. And like I said, I could see where the dance skills really could be applied. um but it was so fitness focused, and that was something that I saw it through the marketing, I saw it through everything, that was how it needed to be really marketed in Saskatchewan, or in Saskatoon. So that's something too that I could talk about that for hours on end, because the more that I've gotten into the pole community, when I was taking classes, I was asked to become an instructor. And so after a few years, I started teaching and again leading classes. And that was when I really wanted to start to bring my choreography experience, my dance experience, and kind of put some artistry in with it.
Yes.
And so as
Yes.
I started to do that, I also found I never thought as an adult that I would be competing again, but I signed up for my first pole competition. So I went to a pole competition, and then as you're going out there, and then I'm meeting other people in other provinces and internationally. And so I dove into this world and I met so many incredible people. And what I found, whether we were in Saskatoon or anywhere else, I felt like the pole community was so welcoming, and they still to this day, like pole dancers are my biggest cheerleaders, whether
Right?
they're polers, they're, yeah, absolutely incredible. So it's just something where like you're celebrated
Sisterhood. It's
coming
like a
and learning
secret
this new thing.
sisterhood.
Yeah, and it was really cool because there's so many people who come from different backgrounds, right? You mentioned Bridget. Bridget was somebody that like didn't grow up as a dancer, but looking at Bridget's skills and artistry, everything now is incredible. And so it's really cool that as I've gone through pole, like some of my best pole friends were swimmers growing up. Some of them had zero dance experience, some of them were dancers. And so it's a little bit of everything, but we're all kind of this collective of working on this skill and this passion and teaching each other different ways of movement, to celebrate each other at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, to yeah, learn some hard
And you
things
do your
and feel
performances, your
talented.
live
Yeah.
performances in the studios in November's, right? Where you have your competition?
Yeah,
Or do you
so
do
in
more times?
competitions generally, so the first competition that I experienced in Vancouver, I did have to travel. So we went
Okay.
out to Vancouver, and I went and I competed in LA. I've had friends who compete in Florida, so like we have to generally travel to compete. And
You have
then
like a
at the
showcase
studio,
though,
but
right? At
we do
Saskatoon where you
showcases. That's right.
highlight all
So
your local dancers.
yes, yeah. So in order to celebrate our community at the studio, we do studio showcases. So generally we've been doing two or three a year. So we do one in the fall and one in the early winter. It was just I mean, COVID changed so much, so it slowed down for a little bit, and now we're kind of ramping back up on all the performance things and getting out and back into performing. And then last year, I actually brought Pole Theatre Canada to Saskatoon, which is an international pole competition. So I was asked
Oh,
to be a national organizer for this event. And
yeah.
so I get to bring this, yeah, international pole competition to Saskatoon of all places, which is really, really cool. And I've had competitors as far as Iceland and Germany. And this year I've got applicants from Mexico and Egypt. And so it's really cool to see that, pole can bring so many people together. And my first fear of like, are people going to want to come to Saskatoon?
Yeah,
They're coming, like they're here. And
that is
so
awesome.
last year we were at Persephone, and this June as well, we're going to be at Persephone June 6th and 7th.
I'm definitely
And
gonna want to go to that.
yeah, it's such a fun weekend. It's so cool. And so I open up each show with a performance from the studio members as well. And so it's another
Oh,
awesome
good.
way to get
The
us
other
on
thing that I
stage.
think that we should mention too, so for some of us who aren't really sure if we can get up on the pole, there's a couple things that I want to mention. First of all, not all pole is done up on the pole.
Yeah,
Lots of dance can be done on the floor.
correct.
Lots of dance is done just standing around the pole. But the other thing that you've done and created at Saskatoon Pole is you have chair dancing, you
Yeah,
have boot stomps, you have cubicle dancing, you have the hula hoop that hangs from
hoops.
the
Yeah,
ceiling, so hoops. And so
yeah.
you, sorry, like you've got such a beautiful spectrum. Basically, it's sort of like if you can think it up and imagine it, you guys are carrying it at Saskatoon Pole. It's everything's a little outside of the box. And then again, like the girls that I've met that have done the pole there, like there's such that sisterhood, that underlying sisterhood there. It is a literal no judgment space
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
everything.
I wanted to create a really inclusive space, and that was something that was really important to me and a huge push for me to open up the studio. I was very lucky to have so many incredible people to learn from when I first started pole. I'm very lucky to have some of those people still in my life. And so there's so much where, pole has existed for a long time. And in Saskatchewan in particular, we don't get a lot of exposure to it. And so that's where even like coming up and saying like we have this stigma attached to it. No matter where you go, there is going to be a stigma often attached. But I want people to realize and also to know, as I've gone and met all these incredible people through competitions and go to all these events, there are a lot where, pole started in the strip clubs. And that's a part where it's, I don't want it to feel like this dirty word anymore. It's something that Saskatchewan is one of the last places in North America that has a ban against strip clubs. So we are very, very behind in a lot of places. And so, in my dream world, there is a place where, we, I mean, I just like, we didn't get that, like, oh, I'm turning 19 and I get to go to the strip club, that we don't have a lot of that in our culture here. And so that's something that, to be able to say, like, sex workers can have a safe space to work as well, to also recognize that, like, what they do is what inspires and what has empowered me through a lot of my dancing journey as well. It's okay if I want to go and if I want to hump a pole for an hour, or if I want to climb up it and do different tricks. There's, as you mentioned, for pole, we really do believe that from a very beginner with no experience, that we've got a route for somebody to come in. And if you're looking at it like a fitness, that's not a problem. But also, if you want to come in and just dance and get into your own body and to do something for you, that's also the dream, right? I want people to realize and understand that sexuality is not a scary or
Dirty
something that
thing.
you need to be ashamed of.
Exactly that. On that note, what are some, if any, I don't know what kind of, if the women share their stories as blatantly, openly as I did with you, but are there some women that have shared their stories? What's the feedback that you've been given? It's been 7 years now. You're doing
Mhm.
well. You guys have just opened a new studio. You moved from Dutch Street to where are you now?
We're on 46th Street, so it's off of Circle and Faithful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
So, like, what's some of the feedback that the women say? Is anybody else out there like me? Like, what do you hear?
It's, truthfully, it's the people that have really pushed me, that through everything, through, like I said, trying to survive through a pandemic, it's the people that make me fight to want to keep this as my career, because I do believe that everybody has a story. So we all have different ones. Not everybody's going to give me all the details of their stories, but
Yeah,
as I've been going through and when I get to know people and as I see their stories, we all do have something that we're navigating, experiencing. For me, I talk more from my own personal experience, and it's something that, again, like, I've got the, like, I always called myself like the awkward duck growing up, and then finding my way into
yep.
living like a swan. But
I
for
say the
the
same
most
thing.
part, it's, I mean, dance was always a way for me to express not only my feelings, but just also to kind of find myself, right? And so it was a way for me to gain confidence and self-awareness. And so there was so much that dance gave me. And then when I started to translate it into Poland as becoming an adult, I experienced sexual violence as an adult, and there was a lot where, getting into this really traumatic relationship and experience, I've started doing public speaking on my story and what happened, because it all happened right while I was opening up the studio. So when I was opening up my doors, I was in an abusive relationship and I was having to get out. And so to navigate that and to still at the end of the day have the studio, the community, the people there for me, I had the safe space where I could go. I was held. I could, rediscover my body in many ways as well, because I was living in shame for years, even when I first opened up the studio. So verbally, I didn't speak out or tell anybody about what I was experiencing really until the past, like, year or two, was when I started saying it out loud.
Wow.
And so for me to kind of start to translate some of that and to realize how much confidence I've gotten, I feel very lucky that I've had dance and that I've had pole, because I was able to tell my story through movement. That was always something that, even as my therapist would all of a sudden be like, I found your dance page, and I see the way that you're moving, and she could actually translate some of my movement to how I was feeling. And so
Oh, that's just it. And you can pick a song that's going to allow you to cry. You can
that's
pick
right.
that song that's going to allow all those feelings to move through you. We're going to be straight up here. Bridget's my therapist too. And so she knows personally how I like to hold on to things. And a lot of us are like that, where we just don't know what to do with all that anxiety. I used to be a gym rat and I'd take everything out lifting weights, but I never got to tap into my feminine side. And I
Mhm.
don't like running around feeling masculine all the time. I run a business and I'm feeling like I'm always manly. Um, I think, and as we change, like for me, I'm not sure how old you are, but going through menopause, our whole worlds are changing, and our babies don't need us like they used to. So this is this section of life where we're totally rediscovering who we are.
Hmm.
And if we've been fortunate enough to have a nice, healthy partner, a nice, healthy marriage, and your life is great, then good for you. Lots of us don't end up like that. So
Hmm.
we're single and trying to find our way in the world, but trying to maintain, um, a sense of sensuality. My and then the hairdresser in me, or the trichologist in me, is like, yes, like I have so many women sit in my clinic whose anxiety is like off
Hmm.
the chart, right? And so they have no idea where to expend that energy. And I mean, that's why I just, not only does pole allow you to expend that energy there, but it allows you to tap into that critical feminine side
Hmm.
that for me, I have not seen her since I was 3 years old, right? That's a vulnerable space, that feminine side. At least for me,
Hmm.
it is. So it's been a tremendous gift. And I just think that if women had more of an outlet where they could go feel safe, not judged, um, it's just such a gift what you've presented, I think, to the city. And for those of you who don't know about it, like, I mean, 6 week classes all the time, like super affordable. Like 6 week classes, what, $140, 100, and it's like $20 a class or something. So I mean, like, the classes should be booked solid. And no, you don't sit in the room. You go into the room. I'm going to describe what a room looks like for those that are chickens, okay? Because I was a big chicken. So you walk into a room and it's just a big empty room, and there's 8 to 10 poles in every room. Floor two, very high 12-foot ceilings, I think, or 16-foot ceilings, whatever they are. And you'd think that once the thing gets going, because I did it a little bit, I'll be really honest. You look around to see what everybody else is doing, and does anyone else look as awkward as I do? You know? And then that lasts about 35 seconds because the instructor's on you like this to move again. And then you're like, oh, hang on a second. And there's so much concentration that it takes to slowly move that it just, like, all of a sudden by day two, I was just like in the zone. And then when you did take the look, everybody was in their zone. And it was the coolest thing ever, so cool. So I just thought that was like the best thing. And I think more people need to know about it. And I hate the fact that there's stigma around it, because with my 50-year-old arthritic hands, nothing is cooler than being able to try to crawl to the top of that pole. And it might not look sexy for anybody else, but the fact that I did it is an accomplishment, right? But I think it's just such a phenomenal outlet. Do you find that a lot of the ladies that either teach or attend, or I shouldn't say ladies, pardon me, the people that attend, teach, do you find that they have their mental health is a little bit better from when they walk into a class to when they leave?
Yes, yeah. It is. It's one of those, I mean, I think the amount of times that I've showed up to a class and thinking like, oh, I'm so tired today, I'm really drained, or you're in a bad mood. And then, I mean, movement already is a big proven thing that can change things, but dance in particular has such an impact on depression, on anxiety, and all these mental health issues that so many of us struggle with. And so to see the impact that has on somebody and the mood that they can come into the studio to leaving, some of my biggest things that I like tell everybody is I'm teaching them is, we're going to welcome you into the studio no matter what you're feeling that day. So you're allowed to show up as you are, and that's something that's very important to me. You don't need to show up and have to brave anything that day. I've had people who cry through class. There's a lot of things that, like, it's okay. It's okay to express those things, and I
A lot of
want that
pain she
to,
must have been feeling to cry all the way through that. Whatever, there, it just goes to show how that movement's allowing her to let it go, though.
yeah. Yeah. So I think it's very important, and it's a great thing to kind of push yourself out. So I know that it's always scary, and it's something that the amount of times that I hear, well, like, yeah, I'm not strong, I'm not a dancer, I'm not flexible. I say, like, you don't need to be those things. That's why you come to class. You're coming to class so that you can learn, you can grow, you can do that, and also just like embrace the uncomfortable, embrace the awkward. It's okay. It is okay to feel that way. And we'll continue to push forward and learn something new. And there's going to be a focus, or there's going to be something that you're going to enjoy go to class.
Yeah, guaranteed. And your studio is definitely a breeding ground for building confidence in people, that's for sure. So when people do want to take your classes, where
Mhm.
can they find your classes?
On our website. So generally, you can find all of our information on our website or on our social media. But as you mentioned, our classes start every 6 weeks. So right now, we're just in our January term. Everything started up the second week of January. So they run 6 weeks and then we'll restart again. And so if you're looking for that, yeah, 6 week enrollment into a Pole 1 class, they start every 6 weeks. But also, when you mentioned, we also do dance and fitness classes. We have bar, we have Pilates, we do chair dance, sensual movement. I'm teaching sultry jazz tonight. So there's all these different classes, and those ones are all available as a drop in. So you can
Oh,
come
awesome. So you have drop-in
anytime.
classes. You don't need to be
You
assigned to every
don't
on six
you
weeks.
don't need
Okay,
to sign
neat.
up for all six. You can just come in and you can try it. And so you can buy a bundle of dance and fitness classes. We sell them as individuals in packs of 3, 6, or 12. And
Okay.
you can just like kind of book and go at your own thing. So if you wanted to register for all six classes of a sultry jazz class, that's incredible. But if you try that, or we have a burlesque class, we have like we got a little bit of everything. So it's all
This is
there.
so
Our
you guys have evolved even since I was there. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and I mean something, I started teaching tap again. I haven't taught tap
Good for
classes in a long
you.
time, but like tap is something that it was funny. So I will give my dad credit that my dad kept on asking. He's like, for one of your showcases, I really think that you should like do a tap number. It's been a long time since you've tapped. So he mentioned it on and off for a few years, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, dad, like I'll get around to it. And so I did it this fall, and we did like the odd tap drop in once in a while that I would just be like, okay, we're gonna do a session of tap and a few people. But now this year, I'm running 2 tap classes a week. And there's just more and more interest. So I started offering like a brand new beginner tap if you have no experience drop-in class. And so that was really cool to see how many people wanted to come and try. Because again, you see so many people where it's like, my friends were dancers growing up, or like
Exactly. You
maybe you
lose it
watched
after you're a
old Fred
kid.
Astaire movies or something. And so you see tap and they're like, that is really cool. Like just making noise with your feet.
And
So
then can I inquire too, then this swing, what did this jazz class you're teaching tonight?
so
This
tonight I teach sultry jazz. So
sultry
sultry
jazz.
jazz
What
to
is
me, it's
sultry
like
jazz?
sultry jazz for me, there's a little bit of the jazz technique, like if you used to do like a pas de bourrée or a hitchiku ball change back when you were 7 years old. There's some jazz technique, but then the sultry side of it, it's a lot of hair tossing. It's very, again, like
Mm.
sexy and just fun. So um, each week we do a different routine. So like last week we were dancing to Megan Trainor, which again, very sassy, very hair tossing, very body waves, and then tonight we're dancing to Canned Heat by Jamiroquai. So if you know from Center Stage, it's very going to be a little more upbeat. And so each week it's a different style, different song. And so I often tell people too when they're coming in, especially if I have somebody new, that I'm like, if today is not your style or your song, it's something different next time. And so all the dance classes are set up that you're coming in for 1 hour to learn a little routine. You're dancing it, getting comfortable with it. We usually allow for a little time at the end of class to film it or just to dance it a few times. There's never pressure to film. And then the next week it's just something totally different. So you get to walk out of class, you can forget everything that happened in the past hour. There's no pressure where a lot of studios are growing up. The whole idea is like you sign up in September and you're in it until May or June
Yeah.
and dance in a year-end recital, right? Not
Yeah.
all adults can do that growing. Like when you have kids, when you have all these responsibilities, when you have anxiety and depression and like things that, sometimes you need to take a pause. We're really pushing for people for self-care. It's like you
Yes.
need that time to have flexibility in your life. And so that's really a huge part of what I wanted for the studio as well, is for adults to be able to, whether they have danced and thought that they had to give it up because of schedules, whether people saw dancing and always thought they wanted to try it. I wanted to create a safe, inclusive space where people could come try the things and that there didn't have to be this long commitment.
Well, I think what you've done is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's going to, and already has gotten a lot of women out of their shell. And hopefully everybody shares this video and keeps spreading the word. And go to SaskatoonPoleAndDance.com. They've got an Instagram page as well. Make sure you like, follow, share their posts, you guys. Show this lovely little beautiful woman some Saskatoon love. I'm going to get you to hang on, but I am going to end the live. I would love to thank you, though, for attending. Thank you for everyone watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. And then I'm actually going to be starting a podcast next month. So I'm hoping that maybe you join me on my podcast too. That'd be pretty
Absolutely.
amazing. So, all right. So if you just want to hang on. Thanks, everybody. It was great seeing you. I'm going to learn how to end this live for the first time because I've never done that before. There's my live stream button. Okay.